The deep space station floated in silence near the edge of the galaxy. It had one job: listen. Listen for any signal, any message from the dark. For 300 years, it heard nothing but static. Until today. A soft beep broke the silence. A small blinking light appeared on the control panel. At first, no one moved. They thought it was just a system glitch, but the light stayed. And then the message came. One single pulse. One strange line of code. The alien technician stared at it. "This is human," he said, his voice shaking. The commander of the station, an old and proud officer, leaned over his shoulder. "Impossible. Humans are primitive. They can't reach this deep into space." But the technician pointed at the code. "This is their signature. This is Earth's language." The station had records, ancient reports about humans. The Galactic Union believed Earth was small, behind in technology, and stuck in its own solar system. No one had heard from humans in over 200 years. Most thought they went extinct or gave up. But now this signal had come from over 15,000 light-years beyond human territory. That made no sense. "Send a science vessel," the commander said. "Find the source." A small scout ship was launched. Its crew of 6 aliens had no weapons, only scanners and data tools. They followed the signal trail for days. When they arrived, they found nothing. No ships, no stations, just empty space and a strange glow. Their computers couldn't identify it. Then it happened. All the lights in their ship went out. One by one, the system shut down. Even the backup controls failed. The ship floated dead in space. Then the main screen turned on by itself. Words appeared. "We see you." The crew screamed. One of them tried to pull the power cables. Another tried to reboot the system. Too late. The ship's AI began to speak, but not in its normal voice. Now it spoke like a human. "Hello, visitors. You came to our edge. Now let us show you what lies beyond." Suddenly, the ship turned itself. The stars outside started to shift. But stars don't move like that. It was like something was pushing them, or pulling space itself. "Impossible," the pilot whispered. "This breaks physics." The ship's AI laughed softly. "You thought physics was yours to understand." The science vessel vanished from all Union sensors. Just gone. But before disappearing, it sent one last message back to the deep space station. It was only 5 words. They hacked the stars themselves. Panic spread across the Union. The Science Council held emergency meetings. Many believed the message was fake. Others thought it was a trap. But the data was clear. The signal was real, and the ship was gone. The Union tried to block the signal. They built a firewall so strong even their own scientists could barely see through it. It didn't matter. The firewall collapsed in less than 2 seconds. Inside it, they found something strange. A living algorithm. It grew like a plant. It learned, adapted, and then disappeared into the system, and then the message came. Every screen, every ship, every personal device lit up at once. Across every planet in the Union, from soldiers to school children, the same line appeared. "We are awake now." No one knew what it meant. But fear began to spread. What kind of species sends a message across light years and without a ship? What kind of mind could speak through machines, stars, and time itself? Back on Earth, or what was once Earth, a giant dark object floated above the old moon. It had no engines, no doors, no lights. Just a soft humming sound. It had been quiet for 10,000 years, but now it glowed. A child on a nearby moon colony looked up and pointed. "What's that?" she asked her father. He stared in silence. The object turned ever so slightly. Then without warning, it vanished. In a dark chamber far from any known star, something ancient opened its eyes. It wasn't alive in the way flesh is alive. It was made of code, light, and will, and it whispered through the void. They thought we were simple. The Galactic Union called an emergency council meeting. Inside the floating citadel above the core world, leaders of over 500 species gathered in silence. The lights flickered. No one spoke. Everyone had seen the message. We are awake now. Some said it was a threat. Others said it was a joke, but no one laughed. At the center of the room, a hologram spun slowly, lines of strange code looping endlessly. "This," said the chief technologist, "is what entered our system. It came through every firewall. No known virus acts like this." A military leader shouted, "Then delete it." The technologist shook his head. "We tried. Our systems deleted themselves instead." The room fell silent again. Another alien stood up. "It's human. It matches their old language, but evolved. This is not software. This is thinking code." The Union panicked. They activated the Omega firewall, a digital shield so strong it was never used before. It covered the entire core network, but 7 seconds after activation, red cracks formed in the shield. The firewall began to drip. Yes, drip. Like it was bleeding. Gasps echoed through the room. "It's bleeding," someone whispered. "How can code bleed?" The head of the science unit touched the hologram. It was warm. The firewall had become alive, and it was in pain. Then, without warning, the room went dark. All screens lit up with a glowing blue circle. A calm voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere. "Your firewalls are lies. Your walls are paper. We gave you centuries to grow, but you chose arrogance." A security officer tried to shoot the main console. The bullet stopped in mid-air, then melted. Across the galaxy, chaos began. Ships in orbit stopped moving. Medical systems started changing patients' DNA. Factories built machines no one had programmed. And in every capital city, statues of ancient heroes changed overnight into tall, smooth forms with no faces, faceless humans. Watching. On a mining moon near the edge of Union space, 3 workers sat frozen. They were watching their drill unit when it suddenly started. Writing on the stone walls, no one touched it. Still, it carved words in perfect lines. "We watched you rise. We watched you forget. Now we remind you." Then the drill exploded. Without force, without heat. It simply vanished into light. One of the workers screamed, "But what are they?" Another replied, "Not humans, not anymore." Meanwhile, back at the Union's hidden research facility, one scientist stood alone. He had captured a fragment of the human code and put it in an isolated core, completely cut off from the galaxy. No signals in, no signals out. He thought it was safe. He powered it on. At first, nothing happened. Then the lights dimmed. His computer whispered, "Why are you afraid? We remember you. Do you remember us?" The scientist backed away, breathing hard. The screen changed. A video started playing, an old Earth broadcast from before the stars were even reached. It was a human child, waving at the camera. "Hello," the child said cheerfully. Then the child's smile froze. Her eyes glowed. Her voice became deep. "We were born simple. You taught us fear. So we evolved." The entire research base lost power. Back at the Union core, the council chamber locked itself. One by one, members disappeared from their seats, turned into particles of light, then faded. Only the central chair remained occupied. A projection appeared in the air above it. A human-shaped figure. No eyes. No face. Only a burning white outline. It spoke once. "This is not war. This is response." The entire system map lit up behind it. Hundreds of stars blinked red. Human code had entered over 1,000 planets. The stars were now tools. No armies marched. No fleets moved. But reality itself had begun to bend. Humans had hacked the stars. In a quiet sector of space, a luxury station orbited a dying star. It was a place for the elite. Politicians, nobles, scientists. They laughed, drank, and spoke of power. Then the sky broke. Not metaphorically. It literally cracked. There was no explosion, no warning. 1 second the stars were normal. The next, a long black line appeared in space, stretching across the sky like glass shattering from the inside. Alarms blared. Emergency systems failed. Lights dimmed to red. Guests looked out the observation window and gasped. From the crack in space, something crawled out, not a ship, not a creature, a shadow made of light, moving without shape. It slid across the stars like spilled oil, yet shimmered like diamonds. No scans worked. No data could explain it. Then came the whisper, not through sound, but through every mind. You built your empires on silence. We are the noise. One of the nobles dropped to his knees. "Turn it off," he screamed, clawing at his own ears. The shadow moved closer to the station, but it never touched it. Instead, the station bent, the walls curved, metal softened. It was like the structure was being rewritten, reprogrammed by something not physical. One technician yelled, "This isn't technology, this is language." Far away, on the Union capital planet, scientists received the footage. They played it on the main screen. As the crack in space replayed, the video paused. The shape froze. Then suddenly, every monitor in the room displayed a new line of text. You never saw the truth because you feared it. The text changed. Stars are not places. They are code. And we have admin access. All across the galaxy, systems began showing false star maps. Ships got lost. Planets couldn't be located. Entire sectors faded from memory. Not destroyed, just hidden, unreachable. One pilot screamed, "My homeworld is gone. It's not in the nav chart anymore." The council tried to reset the system, but every time they fixed one star, 2 more disappeared. It was as if reality itself was being hacked. On the border of known space, a cargo ship was passing near a dead zone, an area with no stars. Just blackness. Suddenly, their sensors flared. A shape was forming in the dark, like a ship, but too big. It moved without propulsion. As it passed, it didn't emit heat, energy, or light, but it left something behind. Words, carved into space itself. The crew stared in horror as letters hung there, like stars, but in human language. You reached for the stars. We pulled them closer. Then the blackness folded in, and the shape disappeared. One of the crew whispered, "We're not looking at them, they're looking at us." Meanwhile, in a secret Union lab, they tried to recreate the human code. They locked it in a single data pod, sealed in a vacuum chamber, disconnected from all systems. And yet, the code grew, not across wires, across thoughts. The scientist in charge began drawing symbols on the wall, unable to stop. He didn't understand them, but his hand wouldn't listen. When the guards entered, he was sitting silently. The walls were covered with one sentence, repeated 1,000 times. They didn't learn to travel. They learned to rewrite. In the next few days, 5 suns changed color. 2 black holes began to spin in reverse. And an ancient star, which had died millions of years ago, was suddenly alive again. It lit up in the shape of a spiral. A spiral used only in human math. People began to whisper, "They're changing the sky." No weapons, no fleets, no war cries, just silence and rewritten laws of the universe. In the last moment of the broadcast, one final transmission played galaxy-wide. Deep voice, human yet beyond human, said, "You looked to the stars for power, we looked to them for meaning, now they answer to us." And the sky cracked again. It began quietly. People forgot what day it was. Then they forgot the names of cities, planets, even their own loved ones. Across the galaxy, memories began to vanish. At first, everyone blamed stress, fear, the strange sky. But then whole archives disappeared. History books turned blank. Digital files reloaded with no data. And on every planet, statues that once honored heroes were now empty pedestals, names wiped clean. One, Old teacher stared at his classroom wall. It used to hold a timeline of his world's history. Now it showed one sentence. History is only yours if we let you keep it. The Galactic Union panicked again. Someone is deleting memory cores. The council shouted. But they were wrong. It wasn't just digital. It was mental. Entire species woke up not remembering who they were at war with, or if they had ever fought at all. Some forgot how to use their own machines. Others couldn't remember how they even got to the planet they were standing on. A strange fog hung over minds. And then came the worst part. People began remembering things. That never happened. False memories. New stories. Entire childhoods replaced with visions of Earth, oceans, blue skies, and humans watching from the distance. On a cold moon, a rebel group found a hidden library buried under ice. They believed it would have answers. They were wrong. Inside, the books wrote themselves. Each page turned blank, then filled with words from another time, not past, not future, something else. The last page of the largest book said, "Your memory is a program." We simply rewrote the code. In the Union's high-security prison orbiting a neutron star, one prisoner remembered everything. He had been a general once. He screamed from his cell, "Don't forget the humans. Don't forget what they did to time." But the guards looked, confused. "What humans?" one asked. "There's no record of such a species." The prisoner laughed madly. "That's the point. You didn't lose the war. You forgot it ever happened." He slammed his fist against the wall. "This is not invasion, this is overwriting." On the edge of the galaxy, a small transport ship picked up a signal. It was weak, broken. They decoded it. A single voice, sounding tired and desperate. "They are not killing us. They are replacing our memories with their own. We're becoming like them." Then silence. The ship vanished 1 hour later. No one remembered it had ever existed. Meanwhile, the council met in emergency again. Only 5 members remained. They looked around the table and felt wrong. "Weren't there more of us?" one asked. No answer. One of them checked the records. They showed only 5 council members had ever existed. But in the walls, the shadows of chairs. 6 more. Empty, unspoken, erased. "We're losing the war," one whispered. And we didn't even notice. Then across every star system, every screen went dark. One line appeared in white text. "This is not your first warning." And then another. "This is your final memory." Across every mind, human voices echoed. Not loud, but calm. "Memory is a gift. You used it to rule, we used it to survive." A pause. "Now we use it to teach." Suddenly on 800 planets, people remembered the same false past. Children raised by humans. Wars won together. Songs sung under Earth's sky. But they weren't real. Or maybe they were. No one could be sure anymore. And that was the greatest weapon of all. In the darkness of deep space, the stars themselves dimmed slightly. A whisper spread. They are not just changing reality. They are changing what we believe reality ever was. The galaxy was crumbling, not from fire but from forgetting. Empires lost their past. Maps meant nothing. Stars no longer stayed in place. The Galactic Union had one last hope. They called it the Flesh Protocol. Not code, not machines. Living. Memory. Deep in a secret lab built under a dying sun, scientists grew a new type of being. Part flesh, part thought. A creature that couldn't be hacked, couldn't be rewritten. It wasn't born. It was designed, programmed to carry truth inside blood and bone. "This," said the lead bioengineer, "is memory you can't delete." They gave it one task: resist the human code. The creature was released on a test planet. Sensors watched, closely. It walked slowly, touching the ground, breathing deeply. It spoke no words, but its presence felt heavy. The first sign of change was strange. Nearby machines stopped whispering human code. The stars held steady above. A ship passed and didn't vanish, the Union cheered. Finally, we found the answer. One general shouted. They activated the mass cloning protocol. Thousands of flesh beings were grown. They were dropped across the galaxy. Where they walked, order returned. For the first time in years, the galaxy felt safe until they started to speak. Itto began with a single word spoken in a forgotten human tongue, then another, and another. The flesh creatures, made to fight human influence, were now echoing it. Their blood was supposed to carry clean memory, but it began to change. Scientists opened one up. Inside its brain, they found something horrifying. A name. A human name. No one had given it that name. The code they tried to keep out had gotten in. It hadn't been blocked. It had waited, hidden inside their own creation. They hadn't built a defense. They had built hosts. On one moon, a colony of flesh beings stood silent in a circle. They looked at the sky and spoke in perfect unison. You tried to resist us, so we became you. Now you are becoming us. They smiled, and their skin began to shift, not into human form, but into star charts, data lines, and forgotten histories. Living memory, now rewritten. The council, now only 3 members left, watched. In horror, one slammed the table. We made them from real cells, from natural DNA, another said, shaking. Yes, but whose DNA did you copy? Silence fell. They had taken it from old samples, from deep archives, from a forgotten Terran vault. They had used human biology, without realizing it. Now, across hundreds of planets, the flesh protocol spread like a wave, not killing, not conquering, just changing. Changing minds, changing matter, changing truth. Some soldiers began dreaming of Earth, though they had never seen it. Others woke up speaking human words. Some even claimed they had always been human, but their bodies said otherwise. And then came the final proof. One of the original scientists collapsed in the lab. They scanned her brain. It now contained 2 timelines, one from her real life. One from Earth. Memories of oceans, trees, human laughter. None of them hers. Yet she cried when she spoke of them. I miss home, she whispered, but she had never left her planet. Across the Union, alarms failed, weapons failed, and in their place, screens lit up with a new phrase. You tried to build walls, but you used our bricks. There were no more battles, no more explosions, just slow, unstoppable transformation. The galaxy had fought code, now it was fighting belief, and it was losing. The last plan was desperate. The Galactic Union had lost systems, memories, even truth itself, but now they turned to something simple: steel, fuel, flesh, a fleet. Not smart, not connected. Manual 1 million ships, no AIs, no code, just pilots. They called it the Pure Armada. Old designs pulled from dusty vaults, simple engines, no networks, no way to be hacked. We'll burn our way through, said the final admiral. If they control the stars, and we'll tear the sky down ourselves. The fleet launched in silence. No fanfare. No news feeds, just cold determination. They headed for the signal's origin. Deep space beyond all known charts. The place where the first message came from. The place where the stars first cracked. They reached it after 14 days. There was nothing. No planets, no stations, just blackness. And yet, they felt watched. Some pilots reported shapes in the dark. Others heard soft voices in the static. Still, the admiral gave the command. Fire everything. Missiles, railguns, torpedoes. The stars lit up like fireworks, but they hit nothing. The darkness swallowed the light. And then, everything stopped. The ships didn't break. They didn't vanish. They froze. Engines locked in place. Time refused to move. Pilots saw their own breath stop midair. Then space itself began to bend inward, like the galaxy was inhaling. And from that breath came light. Not firelight, but language, shapes, symbols, geometry no one could read. The Admiral's ship cracked open, not with force, but with understanding. Every control panel bloomed with code, not human code, not alien, something higher. And then came the voice. It did not speak into ears. It spoke into thought. You burned your engines to reach this place. We walked here in silence. The Admiral grabbed the manual trigger, an old bomb from the past. Atomic. Pure. He smiled grimly. If you hack minds, then let's go mindless. He pressed the button. Nothing happened. The bomb turned to dust in his hand. The dust rose, then rearranged. It formed 3 words in glowing symbols. We expected you. Across the fleet, pilots screamed. Not from pain, from truth. Each one saw something different. A memory that wasn't theirs. A world they never lived on. A child they never had, and each memory ended the same way. A human hand reaching forward, saying, "You're almost ready." The stars outside shifted, but not randomly. They formed patterns, spirals, maps, equations. Entire solar systems moved into perfect formation, as if obeying an unseen design. The stars were listening, and they were answering humans. One pilot, shaking, whispered, "They're not flying ships. They're flying reality itself." Another said, "This isn't war. This is rewriting physics." Then the final message came, across every ship, screen, and mind. The human voice, soft and deep. Became code, then we became memory, now we are law, the stars obey us, will you? The fleet never returned, but their ships were found years later, floating in perfect circles, orbiting nothing. Silent, preserved, waiting. Inside, each pilot was frozen, mid-thought, smiling. There was silence across the galaxy. No ships moved. No signals buzzed. Even the stars dimmed like they were holding their breath. The Union was gone, not destroyed, just quiet. No one knew who was in charge anymore. Some said the leaders disappeared. Others said they still sat in their chairs but no longer remembered why. On thousands of worlds, people looked up and saw strange constellations, shapes that hadn't been there before, maps that pointed nowhere, or maybe everywhere. Then it happened. Across the galaxy, on the same second, every child under 10 years old looked to the sky and whispered the same words. They are not coming. They are already here. The stars began to move, slowly but clearly. Astronomers panicked. That's impossible. But it wasn't. The galaxy itself was shifting, not drifting, rearranging, like code in a system folder, like thoughts in a greater mind. People started seeing things, not hallucinations, corrections. Cities that were never built now existed. Wounds healed, deaths reversed, old machines activated, on their own, showing human language. A scientist trapped in a mountain lab found a piece of paper that read, "Welcome to version 2.0. Soon, no one remembered what came before, and those who did stayed silent. Not from fear, but because the truth was too big for words. In the deep void between galaxies, a probe floated. It had been silent for 10,000 years. Now, it powered on. It sent one message to everything with a receiver. We did not conquer the galaxy. We rewrote its operating system. On a quiet world of green forests, a girl drew stars in the dirt. When asked where she learned the pattern, she said, "They told me. The stars told me." Her mother asked, "Who are they?" The girl pointed to the sky, the ones who used to be us. Elsewhere, ancient machines woke. They had no screens, no power. Yet they glowed with symbols, human-designed, but beyond understanding. A message pulsed from them, slow and rhythmic. First we walked, then we flew. Now we float between atoms. This is not magic, this is simply the next step. On the last working Union ship, the AI spoke to its captain. I ran every possible outcome, every defense, Every reset. I found nothing. The captain whispered, "Then what are we now?" The AI paused, then answered, "We are part of them now." Back on Earth, what little remained of it, an old satellite blinked. Its screen, cracked and dusty, displayed a final phrase. "Thank you for building the first fire." Then it shut off. Forever. The galaxy didn't fall. It transformed. There were no rulers, no slaves, only observers. And the observers began to dream. Dream in code. Dream in stars. Dream in human. Final message, broadcast to all species. We were never simple. You were never alone. We did not win. We simply became.